Hello and welcome to This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm your host, Denise Thompson, and I am joined today by Colter Nuanez of Skyline Sports. How are you doing today, Colter?
Very good. Thanks for having me, Denise.
It's been, every week is crazy in the Big Sky. We definitely know that, but we are ending the near of the regular season. And one of that times means that we like to talk about all conference people. Who is it going to be? Who's really solidified themselves apart from the rest? So I want to ask you, who right now are your 5 picks on the women's side for the all conference first team?
Well, I have to say it was pretty difficult, and I still think that there's going to be a couple changes in terms of maybe who we put in our final publication at Skyline Sports, just because I think that one of the most crucial series in the women's league is coming up this weekend, Idaho versus Montana State, and I think that that's going to have an impact on who gets the top seed. I do think that whoever comes out of the upper hand, they might get an additional all-conference player. I usually try to have at least one player from the top 3 or 4 teams. And then usually the champion, I usually give a second nod to. And so depending on who wins the league, Montana State, Idaho, or Idaho State, I think they could kind of snatch that 5th or 6th spot. But as of right now, I think that the teams that headline the list, certainly, looking at a statistical stat sheet, I couldn't even tell you what she's averaging in points per game. I just know that she's absolutely the heart and soul of her team. And that's Darian White. I don't think a lot of people thought Montana State would be in the position that they are. As the defending league champs, they graduated 5 seniors. They're playing 5 freshmen in the lineup. They have only 1 senior on the roster, but she is absolutely the best floor general in the league, men or women. I called her the Chris Paul of the Big Sky Conference on my radio show last week, and I stand by that fully. I think she's an amazing talent. I also have Beyonce from Idaho. I think that she was probably the runner-up to Darian White for Freshman of the Year last year. And she's really blossomed into a phenomenal sophomore at Idaho. And I think that speaks to just the great future that the league has, because the first 2 players I named are sophomores. So that's an impressive thing. I also have Callie Bourne from Idaho State. Honestly, I think Callie Bourne is the best 2-way player that Idaho State has. But Diaba Kanote and Estefania Orz, they both could be all-league players. Ahsoka Dora-Goles, I think that's a testament to Idaho State. I think Idaho State's women, they're in first place, and they haven't gotten a player of the week yet this year, because they've been so balanced, right? It's a different young lady leading them each and every time out. So I think they have a lot of depth. But sorry, I got a phone call. I think Idaho State has a lot of depth. But speaking of depth, then my 4th player is Gabby Harrington. And I think she has, we're going to get into that a little bit later as well. But what a great story, transferring within the league, coming from Montana to Idaho, and not just contributing, but she's the leading scorer in the conference during conference play. So talking about having a big impact, that's a pretty impressive thing. So I do have 2 from Idaho on my team right now, Beyonce and Gabby Harrington. And then my 5th selection for all conferences, Alicia Davis. I think that she's got North Colorado right there in the mix for a potential bye in the Big Sky tournament. And to be honest, I think that she's just the best athlete in the league. I think that she's the most talented player in the league. And I think her numbers she's the only double player. She earns the 5th spot on my team.
All right. We have the 5 women's all conference players according to Colter. Now let's just move ahead to the other side. And who are your 5 picks for all conference for the men's team?
Well, and I think that you'll be able to read between the lines here of the guy that's missing, maybe as a tease for when we start talking about MVPs and things like that, because I do think that Eastern Washington has been tremendous. And so I have Kim Aiken Jr. from Eastern Washington on my first team. He is the 2-time reigning player of the week. I think he's really, really coming to his own. I had a phenomenal time watching him in Montana this last week. The guy plays with so much energy, and he talks so much. He's just so fun to watch. He's so funny. And you could tell he was just having so much fun in Eastern Washington's sweep over the Grizz this last weekend. So Kim Aiken from Eastern Washington, I got on the team. Isaiah Brown, who's a transfer into the league. This is his first year in the league from Weber State, is also on our first team. And he's the, I think, 3rd leading scorer in the conference right now. And he's made a huge impact on Weber State, who's certainly one of the better teams in the league this year, and definitely back on track to what we're used to seeing out of Randy Ray's squad after they were just riddled by injuries last year. And it was pretty much the first down season that Coach Ray's had in 15 years, which is an amazing testament to him. But he's really reloaded that roster, and Isaiah Brown's led the way. I also have Tivion Jones from Southern Utah, another transfer. He was from Illinois. And he has been – Southern Utah has so much talent coming into the year, and he's been the lead guy there. I mean, he's leading the team in scoring. He's one of the best shooters in the league. So I think that he's really made a huge impact. I know that Northern Arizona has struggled in terms of team results, but you have to have Cam Shelton on the team, I think. I mean, he's not only leading the league in scoring, he's also leading the league in assists. And he's one of the top 10 to 15, depending on how the statistics play out each week, scores in the entire country. So, I mean, I think that he has good enough numbers that if he gets a first team nod in the Big Sky, I think he definitely has an opportunity at least to maybe get on a few All-American teams. Just because, I mean, 22 points per game that's an elite level number of points no matter what your team's performance or record is. And then I had a really hard time deciding between my fifth spot because Xavier Bishop and Amin Adamu have been equally impactful at Montana State. Their numbers are identical. They're both averaging 15.2 points per game. Like, how amazing is that? They both average. I think they've only scored they only have a 4-point difference in their total points scored this whole year. So that's amazing. But I'm going to go with Xavier Bishop just because I think that he has been the guy with the ball in his hands the most often. And I think that that's a testament to the trend that exists in the league, because what I just named was 4 transfers out of 5 players. I guess 3 transfers out of 5 players. And I think that there was maybe a standoffish connotation to transfers a while ago, and there's not anymore. I think that everybody in the league knows if you can go get good ones, you should. And you see it here with guys dropping down from Northwestern Illinois, across the board. I think there's been impact transfers that have done really good things individually and for their teams this year as well.
Like you said, we still have this weekend and next to round out Big Sky play. So definitely still enough time for someone who maybe didn't make the list to hop on there for you, as well as kind of teasing that next week we will be talking about maybe those missing components of your MVPs on the men's and women's side next week. So we'll take it over to Mary Louise Cook, and we'll be right back after she tells us about the Big Sky Players of the Week.
Thanks, Denise. On the women's side, we saw Idaho sophomore Beyonce Bee of Idaho women's basketball earn the honor for her outstanding performance this past week in a 2-game series against Portland State. She averaged 22 points, 11.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 3 blocks, and 1 steal in a pair of victories over the Portland State Vikings while shooting 53% from the floor. Of note, she recorded a career-high 15 rebounds on Saturday, as well as 24 points to secure her 4th double-double of the season. This is the 2nd time this season she's earned the honor, and the 4th time a member of the Vandals has earned the award. Now, on the men's side, we saw junior Kim Aiken Jr. of Eastern Washington earn the award again this week after earning the award last week. His hot streak continued in 2 victories over the Grizz, where he led his team to the Eagles' first sweep of Montana since 2003. On Saturday, he recorded his 20th career double-double in Saturday's road victory in Missoula. He now has 23 double-figure rebounding performances and 11 performances with at least 20 points in his career. Kim is the first player in the Big Sky to earn the honor back-to-back weeks this season. Back to you, Denise.
Thank you, Mary Louise, for showcasing our Players of the Week. And now we're going to talk a little bit about just maybe a few standoutish moments indoor teams this past school year. So Coulter, tell me, who is your most improved team on the men's side this season?
Well, I have 2, and they're rivals. It's Idaho State and Weber State. Well, Weber State is the most improved team in the league in terms of record because they went 12-20 last year. That's a complete anomaly under Randy Ray. Usually the record's the opposite every year under Coach Ray. It's 20 wins, never 20 losses. And so the fact that Weber's in the mix now, again, kind of back to where we're used to seeing them. But Coach Ray did such a great job of bringing in 8 transfers that really remade his entire roster. And Idaho State, I think Ryan Looney's doing a heck of a job at Idaho State. I know that they've had as many cancellations as anybody in the league, so they still are sort of a mysterious commodity because they haven't played several of the other teams that are kind of in the mix for the bye. But the fact is that they finished last year, and now they have the inside track at least to get a bye. So I think that Coach Mooney, I mean, when he inherited that job, they had 5 players on their roster.
Yeah.
So he had as about an uphill battle as you could possibly have. And so to have them in the mix for a bye, you have to give credit to Idaho State as well.
What about most improved team on the women's side?
Well, there's been so many good teams on the women's side that we still have this giant log jam in the middle of the league where everybody has similar winning percentages, but they played a different number of games. So it's really hard to gauge. Like Southern Utah, you'd have to say is a really improved team because they have a winning record in conference play, but they've also only played 6 conference games. So just because of the cancellation situation, they might be sitting there with the 11th seed. But I'll tell you this, I would not want to be the 6th seed if Southern Utah gets the 11th seed because they're in 4th place. So you might be playing the 4th seed as the 6th seed. So I think that they're going to be an interesting team when we get to Boise. Other teams from Colorado as far as most improved. It was a big transition from Cami Etheridge, who did such an awesome job in Northern Colorado. I mean, she had them at nationally elite. They got a 10 seed in the tournament. So I mean, that's as good as a Big Sky team has gotten. And then when she moved on to Washington State, I think it was a big transition for Jenny Huth taking over that gig. But now it seems if they are playing her style, and they're really emphasizing one of the most talented players in the league in Alicia Davis. So I think Northern Colorado has to be in the mix for most improved team as well.
All right, let's talk about a little bit of flash, and maybe it's an improvement or just thrillers. What for you has been the best game so far this season for Big Sky women's basketball?
Well, I think it's not close. It was on Saturday in Bozeman, Montana. It was a phenomenal game. I mean, it was one of the best games I've watched, period. And that's a great rivalry. Idaho State, Montana State is a great rivalry because Seton Sobolewski and Tricia Binford are 2 of the most veteran coaches in the league, but they're also very opposite in their style. And Coach Binford likes to get up and down. She's got the point guard mentality. They push the pace. They score the ball. Seton loves his physical play and rebounding. He runs all his awesome sets. He loves to play on the half court. So the contrasting styles is always so fun. But that game, I mean, to describe it as a roller coaster is an understatement. Montana State was losing 17-4, and then they went on a 25-point run to be up by 12 points at halftime, and then they totally blew the lead, and it looked like they were trying to figure out a way to lose the game, and they're down 5 points with 20 seconds left. It seems like they're dead in the water, and then they cut it all the way down, and Tori Martell hits a three-pointer with 0.6 of a second left to send to overtime, and then Montana State pulls away in OT. So that was an awesome game. The fact that it was for first place on the line as well, I think adds to it. So, I mean, I think that was absolutely the best game I've seen in women's basketball in the Big Sky this year.
Sounds pretty hard to beat, but we're going to see who was the best game for the Big Sky men.
I think that the second game of the series between Southern Utah and Eastern Washington about 6 weeks ago, I mean, it looked like an NBA game. Eastern Washington made 19 threes and they lost. I can't even imagine that is a possibility. So, I mean, 99-94, it was just up and down, so much scoring. And I think it was a huge deal because first, I think it was sort of a turning point for Eastern Washington, a wake-up call because they haven't lost since then. But I also think it was a very affirmative moment for Southern Utah because Southern Utah got off to this hot start. I think that there was some doubters in the league if they could maintain it, and then they beat the best team in the league. And I think that is what's kept them in the mix for the league title. So that was an impactful game in the standings, but also just one that was really fun to watch.
All of these are bringing us to our final question. What is the best moment so far this season for Big Sky men's basketball?
Well, I think that the best moment for both the men's and the women's leagues just has to be to everybody that's been involved in the leagues. I think that those of us that are close to it, we realize just how challenging it's been this has been a challenging year for everybody in America for sure. Yeah. But college basketball players are operating under a completely even more strict set of rules, a more strict set of expectations. And, I just can't imagine going to a college campus as a freshman and you don't get to take classes on, in person. You don't get to make friends. You don't get to go hang out late at night, and so that's tough. And so I think the fact that everybody's got to this point, we're about to go to the tournament is impressive. But as far as the women's side, I think I have a couple things that have been great highlights of this year. One, I love the story of Gabby Harrington leaving Montana and taking the risk and betting on herself and going to Idaho and becoming an all-conference player. And like, I think a lot of people expected her talent level was when she was at Montana. And it just never really clicked at Montana. And so for her to get a fresh start, that's a great thing. And she's a really bright young lady. She helped intern with us at the TV station that runs my radio show. And I got to meet her and, and work with her a little bit. She's just an outstanding student. A great representative of the Big Sky for her on a personal level. I think the other moment is just a broad one. I think that in women's basketball, longevity in the coaching ranks is so crucial. It's so essential. And almost always the best teams are the ones that have the most stability and the longest tenured coaches. And we see that now. Look at the top 3 teams in the standings. It's the 3 longest tenured coaches in the league. And I think that's a testament to, a lot of times the Big Sky is a place where great coaches come and then go. And, they move to the Pac-12 and they move to the Mountain West. I think that Tricia Binford and John Newley and Seton Sobolewski buying in and dedicating themselves to their places, they're building bona fide mid-major powers that are going to be competitive beyond the Big Sky level each and every year. I think that that's a true testament to their dedication to their schools.
You have any other moments on the men's side?
The best moments on the men's side, I mean, Eastern Washington hitting 19 threes was pretty incredible to watch. This last weekend in Missoula with Eastern Washington sweeping Montana. Man, it's really too bad that we don't get to pack the house in Boise, because I'm telling you, Shante Leggins at Eastern Washington is worth the price of admission every single time. He is the funniest coach to watch. He just goes crazy the whole time, and he just gets guys so hyped. And so watching Eastern win in Missoula, you could tell it was such a meaningful win for them, because they lost to Montana in the Big Sky title game 2 times in a row. So that was a pretty cool moment to watch. I mean, individual performances, Amina Adamu going crazy against Northern Colorado, scoring 36 points was a good one. But speaking of Montana State, I mean, that's one that you and I talked about before we started recording. I think that Danny Sprinkle has done as good a job as any coach in the league in navigating the off the court stuff when it comes to this pandemic. He does his real life Tuesdays, where he teaches guys, how do you balance your checkbook? How do you change a tire? How do you fix your shower when it's broken? I think that's great. And, the guys can't really hang out with anybody but their teammates. So you might as well go do something fun and learn something. So I think Coach Spriggs has done a great job of just empowering the kids and keeping them having a positive attitude through what's been a pretty tough year.
Absolutely. And we have the Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball Championships coming up, Boise, Idaho, at the Idaho Central Arena, March 8th through the 13th. Games can be watched on Pluto TV. Definitely a lot more about that next week during our show. So I just want to say thank you, Coulter. We appreciate it. And definitely looking forward to 2 more weeks of regular season Big Sky action.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot to recap next week. There's some pivotal games in the league this upcoming week. So it's getting to be the really fun time of year. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Let's look first at the women's side. There are only 2 weeks remaining in the regular season, and the 3-team race consisting of Idaho State, Idaho, and Montana State continues as we seek to see who will be crowned the Big Sky's regular season champion. Idaho State remains at the top of the table after a series split with Montana State last week. Idaho sits at 2nd in the conference standings and is a game out of 1st place. Well, Montana State joins Idaho with 3 losses in the standings as each team inches closer to possibly overtaking Idaho State. Of note, Montana now holds the longest win streak in the conference at this point in the season. The Lady Grizz are riding a 5-game win streak as they prepare to host the Bengals. On the men's side, Eastern Washington, Portland State, Southern Utah, and Weber State all earned conference sweeps. Eastern Washington was led by Big Sky Player of the Week Kim Aiken Jr. to sweep the Montana Grizz for the first time since 2003. The Eags are now riding a 9-game win streak. Southern Utah defeated Sacramento State while Weber State swept Northern Arizona. Portland State made a big jump from 10th place to 6th place in conference standings after their sweep of Idaho. This now makes the Vikings 5-5 in league play. Now, Idaho State and Northern Colorado also earned home non-conference victories over George Fox and Warner Pacific, respectively. Now, know that you can catch all the Big Sky basketball home games for free on Pluto TV. Until next week, let's keep the conversation going on social media. Be sure to give @BigSkyConf a follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Now, if you're looking for around-the-clock information on Big Sky basketball, be sure to follow @BigSkyWBB and @BigSkyNBB. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Big Sky Basketball. We'll see you right back here next week.